You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And we are moving straight to the NPP's matters. But over a long period, when the discussion about Galamsey and this LI is hard, we never really show people what the law is. I'm going to read that law to you, and then we'll move on. So the LI 2462, the problematic provision is Regulation 3. And Regulation 3 reads, prohibited areas. So 3.1, a person shall not issue a license or permit to any person to undertake mining activity, including exploration activity in the following areas. 1, a globally significant biodiversity area, a protected provenance area, an institutional research plot, a hill sanctuary, a high conservation value area, a seed orchard, swamp sanctuary, plantation sites, and cultural sites. Now here is the problem. We introduce a 2, which says, despite paragraph A of sub-regulation 1, the President may, subject to Article 268 of the Constitution, give approval in writing to a mining company to undertake mining activity in a globally significant biodiversity area in the national interest. This is what brought the problem. So what has been done now with the amendment that has occurred is that it has removed this presidential power to grant persons the right to mine. And guess what the penalty was if you infringe this law? It was just you going to prison for not less than 6 months and not more than 1 month for destroying the environment. Can you imagine? Anyway,
let's come to
let's go to NPP's presidential primaries, which has been slated to come off in January. So what is the problem? Let me begin with Dr. Osai Kwapong. Some say this is a masterstroke. Their party is literally in shambles, they admit. A powerful party in government with good numbers in parliament, a supermajority, now went to a hung parliament, and then suddenly they can only boast of 88 MPs. And now they have to face elections, having lost with such a humongous defeat. We're told almost never in the history of the country. Doing this early in the manner they are seeking to do it, good or bad?
Let me phrase it as concerning. Concerning only because, this won't be the first time that they are holding their primaries 2 years before the presidential election. I think in the 2000 election, they held their primary in 1998. The 2012 election, I think by 2010, they had held their primary. 2016, they held a primary in 2014. So an early primary is not something that is new to the party. I think where my concern comes in is that post the election and the formation of the Professor Michael Quay committee to look into, the reasons for the loss and make recommendations. I was on a platform once with Mr. Richard Ahiagba, who talked about the fact that whilst they won't make the report public, the committee has made some recommendations for reforms, etc., some particular issues that the party needs to address. One of which was, the only one that he mentioned was the expansion of the Electoral College. So they set up another group, I think, to study the recommendations and then come up with the way forward. So where I find it concerning is that I was expecting that whatever those recommendations are, they will be studied. They will develop a roadmap for moving ahead in responding to those recommendations for the necessary changes and reforms, get that in place, resolve all of those challenges, and then start moving ahead with electing executives for the party and then ultimately electing their flag bearer. This seems to be doing it the other way around. And that's where, for me, my concern is that why now, before enacting the necessary reforms as per the recommendations, whatever they were in the Professor Michael Quay report?
Have you heard some explanations that say that the process is going to be costly, it will be very divisive, they're already down there, and this approach appears to be one that will hold them together so that at least each hopeful, Baumia, Kennedy, Yaweduchum, Kobne Japan, he's also in, is it? Interested, is he? Okay, well, Brian Champong. Each person needs to spend in excess of about 40 million, at least, Ghana cedis, just for the internal processes of choosing the constituency or electoral area people. And all of these will be seeking to sponsor people who favor them. So you are going to elect your flag bearer, and they are all doing this for their parochial interests. In the end, one person is chosen, and the rest cannot seem to work with that person. But this gives them the opportunity, if they have any money, they will channel it to the party to help the reorganization processes. And the election process does not leave you with, my people did not win, or something of the sort.
So I've heard that, and also in following the conversations, particularly on social media, between the two main candidates, right? When I look at those who are supporting the Honorable Kennedy Paul and those who are supporting the former vice president, when I look at sometimes the rhetoric, some of the exchanges, how intense it gets, it suggests to me that one of the things that the party is trying to address with this early primary is, let's get this over with sooner rather than later, and then we can spend the rest of the time rebuilding, forging that unity that we need in going into the 2028 election. But an early primary for me is not necessarily the solution to party unity. What becomes, what is critical for me is how you manage and deal with grievances, especially post-primary grievances that emerge. That for me is what is critical, because at the end of the day...
So they are seeking to cure part of that with this solution. Don't you see it, as some of them argue, and I've heard Paul Ademochiri actually give an expansive explanation as to why this is the master stroke. They are going to go into these regional or executive elections. Each of these hopefuls will begin to sponsor someone, party chairman, regional chairman, constituency that. They will begin to sponsor people. Then they go through this process. Some of these people will lose. They will not win. Then they begin to say, Baumia's candidate lost here. Brian Champong's candidate won here. Then, when it gets to the flag bearership, you have a region that is controlled by a Brian Champong chairman going to be part of the supervision of the flag bearership for people that he has his favorite in. They say that will even divide the party the more. You don't see that?
No, but Samson, who is to say that if you hold an early primary and the losing candidate may not feel a certain, may not feel aggrieved in a way that when you start having these other elections for party officials, right, that they may still choose to sponsor their own candidate to a regional or to a constituency or to a national opposition. There's no
What you
guarantee
understand is that the natural thing that happens is that once they pick a flag bearer, everybody gravitates to the flag bearer. And then the elections in the grassroots level does not become as acrimonious, and because these other candidates or hopefuls will all rally behind one person who will become the leader. So there won't be divisions down there.
Well, I mean, that's one plausible argument. But as I also keep saying, we have also seen what some of these intra-party elections have produced in terms of the acrimony, the divisions, and all of that. So whilst there is some merit to that argument, I again just worry that for everything that was said about there is the need for certain important reforms to be made post the 2024 election. Unless, of course, the reforms are inconsequential to strengthening the party's structures, strengthening the party in going into 2028. But from at least from what was shared publicly in terms of some things need to be done, I'm just worried that those things haven't been done and you are going into a primary against the backdrop of those challenges.
They haven't said they have jettisoned those. They are going to do those things, but they will do them at the right time. They're going to have a meeting of some council, and then subsequently, is it in July, they'll have one meeting. Yes, they will have one meeting to trash out certain things that have to be taken care of. The constitutional reforms that has to be done at the apex, that is the annual gathering of all who matter in the party. They say that everything rises and falls on leadership. So pick the arrowhead. Do you buy that?
Well, like I said, I mean, hey, it's the party gets to do what they believe is in the best interests of the party. But as I keep saying, for me, the kinds of things that would produce party unity and help the party to address whatever challenges that the party needs to address, in my opinion, an early primary is not the answer to that. Okay,
please hold on for me. I'll return to you to give us, your idea of the hopefuls. For at this time, there's no candidate. They are hopefuls. Of course, Dr. Bawumia is contending, and we had some MPs go to meet with him and endorse him. We are told there were 60 of them. There's argument about whether they were 30 plus, they were 40, or they were actually 60. And Ken too is meeting with, is it former DCs or something of the sort, and all sorts of calculations coming in, everybody seeking to own a particular turf. Yao Osei Educhum, who had interest in becoming running mate to Dr. Bawumia, is now thrown himself in there. He's going to contest. Brian Echampong, who also had interest in becoming vice presidential candidate, also throws himself in there. And some suggest he is the dark horse. And there are claims that perhaps he comes in, he and Educhum come in so that if you don't want Bawumia and Ken is also not really the person you feel we should present to the people, then you have a middle ground, Brian or Educhum. We'll return to you for that. But since Haruna is here, Haruna, concerns are being raised, and I'm actually being told here that the early primaries and the reforms are not mutually exclusive, nor are they necessarily sequential. This is coming from a high up in the NPP. Explain to us, why are you doing things upside down? Nyaho Tamaklo also sends a message and says what you are doing is the wrong way, rather. It says that, I read just the last bit of a long letter he has sent. He says, I insist that the current leadership responsible for the party's current state cannot be trusted to provide a credible election outcome. They lack the legitimacy and moral authority to elect a leader for a party aiming to win elections in 2028. it is imperative that a more credible, inclusive process and one that respect of the NPP's party constitution is adopted to ensure that the party's future, success. What do you say?
I guess that's a former member of our party, that is Dr. Nyawo Tamakulu. He has just sent a long message to you. We appreciate him. Good morning. Samson, I would give you the background as to where we came from and how we arrived at this particular position at the last National Council meeting on the 17th of June. Samson, you agree that after we lost the elections in 2024, on the 2nd of January, we had a National Council NEC meeting, and we took a decision to put together a National Council committee headed by Professor Mike Aaron Okwe to look at two issues. One is to look at why we lost the election, and second is to look at possible reforms or constitutional amendment to our constitution that will help to reshape a regrouping of the party towards the elections in 2028 and beyond. Professor Michael Okwe's committee went to all the 276 constituencies and listened and also received recommendations from other prominent members of the party and other stakeholders. They put together a report. They presented the report to the National Council, and on the 16th of April, the National Council took decision upon listening to Professor Michael Okwe's committee summary report and recommendations, put together a committee for amendment of portions that has been raised in Professor Michael Okwe's committee's report with regards to possible areas of restructuring and amendment, and also referred that committee to the 2021 uncompleted recommendations. So all these were put together, and on the instructions of the General Secretary, Article 19 of our party's constitution was put to bear, where members of the party were called to submit proposals to the committee, and this committee was headed by lawyer Frank Davis. This committee, on the 17th of June, came before National Council, and before their report, before their formation, there was that debate of early Congress to elect a flag bearer, which was captured in Professor Mike Okwe's report that we should elect our flag bearer early. So this was one of the recommendations which was captured in Professor Mike Okwe's report, of which during the thank you tour, we made these representations to the members of the party. And all the recommendations that came through Professor Mike Okwe's report came from the very people that we have been talking to, and that is the members of the party and leaders of the party at the constituency, electoral area, polling stations, regional, and to the national level. So these recommendations were referred back, and these confirmations of recommendations of early Congress was recommended by our members of the party. So it was something that was conclusive and decided by the grassroots of the party, which is not in contention. So this matter was put before the amendment committee, and the amendment committee in their recommendation singled out that the presidential primaries should be conducted early enough that kura, if it is not done by March of 2026, it should be done. So we went into the constitution of the New Patriotic Party, and in Article 13(1), if you permit me, I read, the elections of the party's presidential candidate shall be held not later than 24 months from the date of the national elections. And in this case, the national elections is 2028 elections. The date and venue for the election shall be decided by the National Council. Shall, it is not a may, shall be decided. It means that the National Council is cloned with the power and seized with the authority to decide the date and venue for the conduct of presidential primaries at any point in time, despite the fact that there is a definitive definition of not later than 24 months. So I proceed, shall decide by the National Council, provided, however, that the National Council may, on appropriate occasions, vary the date. Meaning the National Council can decide that elections of the flag bearer can be conducted 1 year to the election. Can be conducted.
Read the first provision. Read the first provision again.
It says not later than 24 months, but the National Council can vary.
Can vary what?
Can vary the date in appropriate occasions. They can vary the date. So it means they can take a decision. They can do it 3 years, they can do it 2 years, they can do it. So in these particular circumstances, the National Council, based on the recommendations of Frank Davis Committee, took a decision. And Frank Davis Committee said that it must be taken on the very day that report is presented to the National Council.
Do you realize that this was presented to the Constitution Review Subcommittee in your party, correct? The Constitution Reform Party.
We formed, it's an ad hoc committee.
I get it.
Yes, which was formed.
It was presented to them. Why was it presented to them?
Which one?
Why was the proposal for early flag bearership race? Why was it presented to them?
It was part of the discussions on the very day Professor Mark Okwe's report was presented.
Good.
And it was drafted into that for them to take consideration. And
because it requires an amendment of your constitution.
No.
So why was it given to a body that is supposed to amend the constitution, give proposal for amendment of the constitution, when the thing you gave to them does not require amendment of the constitution?
Because the committee was asked to also consult and confer. And I can tell you, Brian Achampon appeared before the committee. His opinion was sought. Kennedy Ohene Ajapong appeared before the committee. His opinion was sought. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia appeared before the committee. His opinion was sought. Former President Kufuor was met in his house for a discussion. Former President Akufo-Addo, when they met him, they discussed this particular matter. Other stakeholders, Council of Elders of the party, this was discussed. And like I said, this matter came up on the very day the report of Professor Bakokwe.
Please let me have your copy of your constitution. Don't close it, just keep it to that provision, because
this matter did not need an amendment for it to be done.
Right.
It's just like when you have your court system. For example, parliamentary petitions.
This is Article 13.
Yes.
It's headed Election of the Presidential Candidate.
Yes.
13.1 says, the election of the party's presidential candidate shall be held not later than 24 months from the date of the national elections.
Yes.
Not later than 24 months.
Exactly.
So this is within what your constitution provides. 31st of January 2026 is within this.
It's within.
Okay, thank you.
And you don't read in part, read in whole. Because you are the host. I want the people to get that.
It's okay, it's okay.
So reading it in whole.
I needed to confirm to myself
whether
it is only the venue and the dates that this council is allowed to vary, and whether or not before they can vary anything, you have to meet the first threshold. But from what you are suggesting, the first threshold is met.
It's met.
Okay.
And then the council can further decide to vary. That is what the constitution says.
Okay.
And like I said, in your court system, there are matters that has to emanate from a high court. There are matters that are supposed to emanate from the Supreme Court. So in the case of a petition for presidential elections, you know where it goes. In the case for parliamentary, you know where it goes. That is what this constitution has clearly satisfied. So we took the decision.
But what the constitution provides means that you have all the time to do the other elections from ground up before you get here, because your candidate must be elected within 2 years after the election.
Samson, the Constitution did not say that you have the time to do all the elections. The issue of presidential primary is a stand-alone election. I've heard people say that you cannot roof a house when the foundation is not being done. And when the foundation is done, it's done on a structure. What is the structure of the party? The structure of the party contained in Article 5 of the party's constitution is clear. Structure and organization. We have the polling station, we have the electoral area, we have the constituency, we have the region, external branches, and the national party. This is the structure. The structure does not include presidential primaries. Presidential primaries is a stand-alone election.
So you are agreeing with those who argue that, like Prolab Mochu, who argue that the foundation is actually the presidential primary?
Because
the candidate
stand-alone elections. And presidential primaries is done on necessity and the powers that may be in terms of contest, in terms of activities that is happening, in terms of the gauging of the environment and what actually you want to achieve. So
don't you feel that can't anything be done about this now that you seem to get some divergent views from other hopefuls? Should I say other hopefuls, or at least one of the hopefuls, a key contender, whose people are speaking and saying this arrangement does not favor their candidates, their potential candidates?
Samson, you know, I don't ask questions here, but you are a lawyer. If you are in court representing me, you are saying something in court, and I guess up to say something contrary. It is me. You are talking about me. What I said and what you say in court, which one will the judge take? What I said, because you are representing me.
If I'm representing you,
yes,
the court is supposed to listen to me and your lawyer, because I'm your attorney.
But in this case, you say something, I say, no, this is what I want. In this case, you are saying just one. We should listen to one. I tell you, in council meeting, Brian Achampong was sitting. He's a member of council. In council meeting, Dr. Yao Edichum was sitting in council. Okay? It's only Kennedy Ajapong who is not a member of council. Boacha Ajaku is a member of council, but he waived his attendance on that day. Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Baumia is a member of council. He was sitting. So, in fact, these people have been heard in committee and they have also been heard on the floor. And I can tell you on authority, on that day, when the decision was to be taken, you cannot take a decision without a motion. There was one motion, there was no counter motion. When my boss was asking, with this particular motion, do you have a counter motion? Nobody raised another motion. So there was no counter motion. So that is why we're saying that this was the only motion. We agreed on time. And Samson, other people are mentioning a certain date, saying that 7th December or so, polling station. That is untrue. Because the Constitution provides that before we conduct presidential primaries, the date has to be set pertaining to Article 13(1) by National Council must be situated within a period of 6 months. So choosing a date, the first motion chose a date which was not in conformity with the 6 months.
Okay.
And that was why the motion was further amended and to
I'll get Professor Bokping briefly on this before I hear from Shamima. So Professor Bokping is still here because we are going to deal with financial matters.
Just let me summarize on this point. When we took the decision and we came out with a timetable, I heard people talking about bottom or top or what have you.
Yeah.
This is something that we are not communicating and did not take further decisions on that. All those particular ones, timetables for those elections when they are due will come out.
Okay.
So this is not a matter for us to discuss now.
Now, Prof,
what is consensus?
Professor Kweku Asare says that allowing the old, and this is something others are also contending, allowing the old executives and delegates to vote in selecting a new flag bearer makes as much sense as using the 2024 voter registration manual to conduct the 2028 general elections. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. He continues, outdated processes, expired mandates, and obsolete authority cannot govern future outcomes. This is not too complicated to understand. In a constitutional democracy, whether in the nation or within a political party, a mandate must be renewed before it can be exercised again. The rules are clear. When your term ends, your voting power ends too. Anything else is a shortcut, not a process. You can't shift the date just to entrench the voting power of old delegates. That's why the date change is unconstitutional, not merely because of process, but because of its effect. It risks the foundation of internal democracy. Dr. Nyawo Tamaklo makes almost a similar argument like this, as we have heard from Boache Jako. Yes, what do you say?
Yeah, Samson, I'm the odd one here because this is not my area.
Right.
But I had reasoned along this line, except that I have not been intelligent enough to put it the way Professor Kwekwaza and others have done. The little I know about Ghana's politics is that when it comes to democratic principles, we look to the NPP and how they've done it over the, in terms of building the party. A strong party with its structures is most likely to deliver a strong leader that can take them to the next election. Okay, so I have not followed it, but it looks to me that they want to do it the other way around. They now want to elect the flag bearer before they go through the process of electing the other leaders from
at the lower level.
The rest of them. I'm not too sure this will work for the party because typically, and it is not so. I'm not too sure whether there's been any survey about whether the current leadership from national to regional to polling and the rest of them actually resonate with the grassroots, so that we can rely on those ones to choose the flag bearer for us. But this will be my suggestion to the NPP. Of course, it's not compulsory for them to come to power immediately and all of that. So they can choose to do whatever they want to do. But I think that the party should have a deep reflection about the path they want to go right now. Because anytime, my understanding is anytime you want to use purely the law to solve every problem, you may miss out on so many things. Your constitution may allow you to do this, but I think you should reflect broadly and all of that, and ensuring that whoever is elected is actually popular within the party, and the party structures can work with the person. There's a certain suspicion, I could be wrong, that perhaps this may be done to ensure or to work to the advantage of a candidate.
Dr. Baumia, yes, let's be blunt about it.
And that the more we delay, his popularity within the party will probably decline. And if we go through the process of electing constituency and the rest of them, the dynamics may change.
Because those elections will also be influenced.
Will also be influenced.
Right.
And then it gives the opportunity for other people to also begin to have their foot on the whole. If this is the case, then the party should be careful. Because at the end of the day, you need the entire party working well in a coordinated manner. I believe that if Dr. Baumia is a viable candidate,
so that ultimately the people who elected him first
are still on there,
are the people who are going to elect him, who are going to elect the candidate again.
Yeah, I think NPP, they should take another look. I don't have any problem with Baumia leading the party, but the process, because if you baseline analysis of how they lost 2024, the procedure, the process in selecting the flag bearer also played a role. You may say it was not significant and all of that. So I think they should, we need a credible opposition, we need and all of that, but I don't know, it's not my area. So
right, that's okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Shamima, we have been told that NDC people who have been wading into this discussion are only seeking to protect their own interests, because if these things this thing happening as early as they want to do it, that is such a danger to the NDC.
Wow.
Because John Mahama does not have the opportunity of another term. And when you are in government, you are supposed to choose your flag bearer in the final year. And that would mean that they would have marketed their candidate, would have gone around the country, done all the campaign, and only about 6 months to election, you are now bringing your candidate. That would be to your disadvantage. So you will join those who don't support this.
Not at all. I mean, but for the fact that you have invited us into their problems, we would have been happy to be spectators to the evolution of, the challenges that the New Patriotic Party is going through. Not at all. I mean, I have said that the only threat against the NDC securing a renewed mandate is the NDC itself. Unfortunately for the New Patriotic Party, it is both their own internal challenges and the Herculean tax they would have ahead to justify why they need to be returned 4 years on after taking Ghana down a very rabid, hellhole, if I may say so. A number of things. I mean, observing from afar and listening to all that is happening, it would seem as if the key issues from within members of the New Patriotic Party itself is the timing, and it's also concerns about party unity, whether this particular action will be a masterstroke to further nail the coffin of despondency and despair, for the New Patriotic Party, or a masterstroke that will give them a new leash, on life to put together a strong showing, hopefully, for them towards the 2028 election, and calls for transparency. Calls for transparency because we have had primaries that have happened within the New Patriotic Party that major senior members of the party have had to come and disclose to all of us that the processes were not fair, they were not inherently equitable and just, and that the eventual mandate was a procured mandate. These are all testimonies from within the camp of the New Patriotic Party. So those who have these concerns about transparency and the real motive and intent behind, kind of like turning their own constitution upside down. Because look, I have heard lawyers speak about the internal logic of our 1992 constitution. And when you read about where power lies, power lies in the people, right? They merely vested.
You begin from the preamble. You don't even get to Article 1 before you hear that in the Constitution.
The sovereignty
resides in the people.
In the people.
At another point, it says it springs from the people.
So if constitutionally, even at that suprastructure level, NPP seems to be disconnected from the importance of empowering your base and, engaging in a bottom-up approach to leadership. Like I said,
but however they do it, it will still come from the people.
Well, will it?
However they do it, it will still come from the people.
I don't have much to say about the structure, but I just have a few, words of advice if they will take
to
it.
Help them build their
because
party.
for me, I think that the NPP has, they've taken this nation down a certain stead, and the extent of their loss has still not sunk in, because you see, trauma and trauma response manifest differently. You would agree with me that the loss of the New Patriotic Party has not given them an opportunity to sit in. Sometimes you need to sit in your grief a bit and then do the necessary recompense, do your review, do your reflections, make your confessions. Here we are, that you're asking people to come on a journey of reforms that they do not even know the reasons for those, because many members of the party say they don't even still know why the party lost. So how are they able to come with you on this, reform journey? I read a book recently, my brother, Ministry of the Dispossessed. In fact, I bought it because of the title. I was in traffic when I saw the book, Ministry of the Dispossessed. And it's about the South African situation. But I think that in our case, if you take the title of that book, Ministry of the Dispossessed, it was a period that the New Patriotic Party, in the case of Ghana, compulsorily ushered all of us into an interdenominational ministry of the dispossessed for the citizens of this country. What did they do under the Nana Bawumia regime? They literally dispossessed the citizens, the majority of the citizens of Ghana, of our incomes, of our savings, of our investments, of our dignity, of our voice even to express ourselves, of our pensions, as we know, homes. Mortgages were lost as a result of the colossal mismanagement of the economy. And it was a really dark time for many, many people, and I think many members of the party concede to this. But for the leaders who continue to show post-strings like there have been no lessons learned at all from the experience of the 2024 election, tables have turned, luckily. Ghanaian peoples, we literally pulled ourselves out of the doldrums through our, bootstraps and bootstraps and the power of our thumb to vote massively against, the New Patriotic Party. What has happened now that is a reversal of the rules, where the New Patriotic Party have also entered their own ministry of the dispossessed. They've been dispossessed of the mandate of the people of Ghana. They've been dispossessed of power and influence. They've been dispossessed of quite a few things. And this level of dispossession requires some deep, sober reflections. However, if you make a comparative analysis in the era of the NDC, when the NDC lost elections, if you looked at the conduct and the character of the opposition, at least in the first year or so in opposition, it's quite distinct and different from the New Patriotic Party. They seem to have hit the ground running in a reverse direction as members of the opposition because of their post-strings and the activities they have engaged in, the disruptions which seem to suggest to and the justifications of their tenure. At every turn they take an opportunity to justify, and try to again play this game and mind games of telling Ghanaians that you did the wrong thing by voting us out. At a point that they know what they had done, how they hurt this country, they still haven't recovered from, that traumatic experience. So what I would say is that trying to jump the broom before the time may not work in the interest of restoration. Because if you truly want to do a deep and sober reflection, those on whose hands the defeat happened may not necessarily be trusted to lead a fair and a just process. That is why it was important to go by your own bottom-up approach. Hold elections. Let those who qualify to contest, let them contest. Let the people give you renewed mandate and power to lead them into the next, even towards your national
but you are definitely
primaries.
worried. You are definitely worried about the circumstances that you find yourself.
Don't say you are definitely. Ask the question.
Worried about the circumstances the NDC find yourselves.
Which is?
That President Mahama will have to exit. Are you also thinking to innovate so that you can have early primaries, the fear of the president becoming a lame duck?
It is not the candidates the NDC eventually chooses that will determine the outcome of the 2028 elections. It is the legacy His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is going to leave behind. It is the economy we're going to leave behind. It is the lives we change positively that is going to make that determination. So whoever emerges victorious in the NDC primaries will just be an icing on the cake, which is why I keep reminding ourselves that, look, we have the power to easily get a renewed mandate. If we do, we work hard, we work right, and we work smart.
Interesting.
And that is the work of the NDC,
Yeah.
and we deal with
So
money
Prof,
as we
this
do
situation we
with
find
money.
ourselves in, where we just come out of an election and another campaign season is already kicking in. Some have suggested before that we should have, prohibited periods like places like France and Japan, where they have between 12 to 14 days before the election. Even in Nigeria and India, they have between 1 to 6 months to the elections.
Something. I agree to a large extent. And let me say this. I've said it somewhere that President Mahama, in his first term, we practically did not allow him to govern. This is his best time. And I believe that things have been done in such a way that he's got that peace of mind to some extent. If you look at from the 2012 election, then the election petition, right from there, we've practically moved, the NPP moved into a campaign.
We had almost 9 months of petition.
Yes. And from there we moved. So the policy space had so much to contend with, and here and there. So to that extent, we'll say that.
Okay.
But I believe that the NDC should focus on transforming the lives of Ghanaians. That should be their priority. Of course, they can look at the election date and the rest of them. But I believe that every party is also trying to assess their strengths, the entry point, and to the extent that for now, they can start anytime they want to start and all of that.
Okay.
Let's see how we manage that.
Right. So we need to terminate this quickly because we have another discussion. And Professor Ening has to join us. Don't worry. Hold on briefly. Suleimana Isifu says that the lower level elections have not created rancor like we are seeing the presidential already doing. Thus, for quelling internal strife and healing quickly ahead of 2028 elections, it is important to quickly do the flag bearer election, which undoubtedly is a major fault line in the party. The current executives still have a mandate. Yeah. And so, Professor Azan's argument, respectfully, is invalid.
It's a bruised mandate. It's a bruised mandate. That is the reality of the mandate.
Yes.
What has been the pattern over the years?
It's not a fact. That's what has been stated.
Then why wouldn't they allow Bawumia to just continue because he's the flag bearer
He
now?
cannot continue because he has to get a mandate.
Very bruised mandate. It's a questionable mandate to shepherd over
The point
elections.
the point that has been raised is what is being questioned.
right,
And this is a fact. It's an authoritative platform.
Okay, thank you. Doc, I said I'll return to you a very limited time. In some 2-3 minutes, what can you say about the caliber of hopefuls that you are seeing? Those that we know so far. Bawumia, obviously, in there wants to continue. They insist that this is how the party has done it over the period. They don't take you to the polls once and ditch you. You have Ken Ejapong. Then you have Yao Osei Duchum. Then you have Brian Echampong. And then we are being told also that, Kwabena Japong may come in. Briefly, what do you say about all these people, including those I suggested may be the dark horse?
Yes. So, obviously, I haven't followed much the politics of Dr. Educhum, the former Minister for Education. Neither have I, Honorable Brian Echampong. Of course, you've seen them in the space every so often. Kwabena Japong, I think in 2024, as he went around some of the issues he was bringing up, discussing, I felt did resonate with some people. I feel like at the end of the day, the race is going to boil down between the former Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, and Kennedy Agyapong, Honorable Kennedy Agyapong. I have to be very careful with what I'm about to say next. My mother is a big fan of Kennedy Agyapong, so I don't want to offend my mother. But of those two, I'm not a big fan of adversarial politics. I know that sometimes that's how politics gets. Ken's politics, for me, sometimes is a bit too adversarial. That's what my mom likes about him, but that makes me a little uncomfortable. And for the former vice president, I think the lessons from 2024 and the extent to which it was him that the Ghanaians were rejecting, or whether it was the party itself and that by default he happened to be the party's candidate. Therefore, he had to suffer the consequences for the shifts that we had seen in how Ghanaians were feeling about the NPP. For me, if he can understand that and find a way to articulate a response to it, he can emerge again as the party's candidate. And my unsolicited advice is there is a Bawumia that emerged on the day he gave his concession speech. And that day, as I listened to him give that concession speech, I said to myself, this is the Bawumia that, in my opinion, was largely missing in the 2024 election. And so if he can find a way to understand fully what happened in 2024 and find a way to keep and sustain that Bawumia that emerged on the morning where he gave his concession speech, I see no reason why he can't emerge victorious again in the upcoming primary. Okay.
All right. And so, like you said, very little to say about the others. But I don't know. You haven't seen Duchum trying to come in. You haven't also seen, what's his name, Brian Champong, trying to come in. And also because of his youthful nature, he's only 52.
I mean, I've seen, I saw a video that he released when he was talking about he has commissioned a committee to do some research, come back to him with issues that he believes would resonate not just with the party, but also with the Ghanaian people. And that is what would inform his decision. Like I said, with Dr. Educhum, mainly for me, it's been his work as a deputy and then a minister for education. Okay. But the two candidates that I have really followed them over the years are Dr. Bawumia, and Honorable Kennedy Japong. The reason why, for me, they are the two that I have a lot more to say about than the rest.
You share the view. I know time is up, so I have to move on. The claim that it is possible for the delegates and the NPP to begin to say, we don't want to go with Bawumia, but we also don't want to go with Ken. So let's look for a middle way, and that will become when Duchum and Brian Champong will shine.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some of that. I've heard some of that narrative, especially given the magnitude of the loss that was suffered in 2024. I've heard some people say perhaps the choice to lead the party wasn't Dr. Bawumia. But again, if you look at all the political dynamics, the economic realities, that face the party going into 2024, I don't know if any other candidate would have gotten them victory. If you look at Afrobarometer, the NPP lost that election in 2020.
Some other candidate may have gotten them worse results, you think?
that is also a possibility, but the odds were too against the NPP in 2024.
That was obvious. Today they admit what they, at the time, they refused to admit. Today, when you speak to them in the closet, they will tell you that they knew they were losing the elections, but they had to try and give the NDC a bit of a fight because it was really terrible. Really terrible. It was almost untenable to return the NPP to power in the 2024 elections. Anyway, thank you. I'm sorry. We need to.
They must avoid any semblance of manipulating them or attempting.
It is only fair. Just a minute to you, please. I need to, just a minute.
Because all of them.
Just only you. Just a minute, please. Do it quickly.
Samson, first, no executive mandate has expired. The polling station executive's mandate will expire in 2026 March. the electoral area, March 2026, the constituency, April 2026, regional, May 2026, and the national, July 2026. Again, there is no provision in our party constitution that says that the polling station executive can only elect a candidate for once. The polling station executives are not, or delegates are not barred from electing candidate when their time did not expire. They can continue.
Shamima spoke about looking at the law with a sense of logic.
There is no law.
And reasonableness. If you are voted into office for 4 years, is it, you should, how many years is it? You should get out, or 2 years.
No,
you should get out before you impose a candidate on the new ones about to take over. That's the argument.
It's not about getting out. It is about the procedure. This has been a procedure.
But how have you done it in the time past?
The point is that you cannot stay strict to a jacket. The point is at any point in time.
Okay, thank you.
But let me say, Prof said that it's not compulsory for us to come back to power. It is compulsory. It's compulsory. You can see it that way.
I'm just looking
but it is. Hey. And also, we have not conducted, or we are not doing what we are doing to favor any candidate. Again, we cannot, like Shamima said, that we are turning the constitution upside down. There's no any procedure in the constitution that we have turned any upside down.
They're talking about the natural order which has been your precedent.
The point is that.
So you agree that you are changing
the election is a standalone. It's a standalone, and that is why we are beacons of democracy.
You are in special circumstances, and you are finding a solution
but
to
in
it.
these
People
circumstances,
agree to that.
the reason that emanated from these committees for us to take the decision is that there has been 6 months of animosity. Alcohol, people, negative speech, and all that. We can get 3 years to heal and to patch up all those particular processes.
Thank you.
We have political persecutions out there. We need a leader that will be able to put all of that, the rank and file, together. And also, if there is that early, it will de-escalate the entire negative tendencies.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. This show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 years plus. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie. Is it the roof before the structure, they say? My Way Insurance. Dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Flamingo Paints. It's simply superior. Syntex Tanks. It's strong, it's tough. Activa Insurance. They are proud to be associated with Newsfile. We've seen some of your messages, but we are limited by time. Kofi Bentil insists that he is waiting to hear plans for the nation which are better than what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia had already proposed, and he hasn't seen that yet. Mahmoud Bawumia is still the best bet for the NPP. Manasseh Azuri-Awini also repeats the same claim that Bawumia is the best bet for the NPP. Kofi Bentil, he said the revocation of the LI will not happen, and it has come to pass. He said they will not do it. Today is his birthday. Rebel. We'll be right back.